Today on Homeworthy, we're exploring 3 stunning coastal cottages, each brimming with East Coast seaside charm. First, we step inside an interior designer's Connecticut retreat, where classic New England style meets breezy West Coast vibes for effortless indoor-outdoor living. Next, we tour a colorful, story-rich New Jersey beach house, once a sea captain's home, now layered with texture, pattern, and personality. And finally, we head to Rhode Island to discover a bold and beautiful cottage, where sunny yellow dining room walls and pops of bright red make every space unforgettable. This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Leanne.
I'm Allie.
Welcome to my home in Connecticut.
Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Leanne Thornton. This is my daughter.
Hi, I'm Allie Rezor, and we are the partners and principal designers behind Leanne Thornton Interiors.
Welcome to my home in Rowayton. We've been living in this house almost a year. We have loved the area for the last 22 years, always scoping out what could be available. And this beautiful seaside cottage became available about last August, and it's magical. It's a beautiful, magical place to live. When we first saw the house, it was in wonderful condition. The shiplap on the walls, the lighthouse out the living room window, I knew right then it was gonna be our house. It's tiny, but perfect in every way. And it's a very well-built home. Decorating this house was incredibly easy. Everything that I added and have created matched the interiors perfectly. It's as if everything that I've been purchasing for the last 30, 40 years of my life knew it was going to end up in this house someday. My style, I believe you could call classic traditional, but I believe there's so much freedom to it, and there's so much lightness and beautiful use of fabrics, but not overly done. I think it's a very fresh approach and welcoming approach to design.
In my house in Charleston, at my mom's house here in Rowayton, we work together, so we're FaceTiming all day, constantly working, but we're also walking around our houses saying, maybe that goes there, maybe this moves here. Like, we are constantly back and forth, and it's really lucky because not many people can understand your style and aesthetic as much as we happen to. So it's been very fun kind of helping her with little things around the house.
You've had a lot of influence.
Yeah.
A lot of influence.
But I mean, my whole house is basically filled with furniture from our life. Mm-hmm. And what's so lucky is my mom has recovered and just redone pieces of furniture that are just such good quality that have lasted forever. So it's been fun getting this place together. It's a dream house.
It's a dream. Welcome to my living room. It's a very special spot in the house. It's the main entertaining area. It serves as the TV room, sometimes the dinner room. It's where we gather. And I knew when I first saw this house, this was the room. There's a view out this window that looks out to the lighthouse in the Long Island Sound. I looked out there and I thought, if I can be in this house and look at this gorgeous lighthouse, I knew right then this was for us. The funny thing is that our furniture really worked in a room that would look over a lighthouse.
It really did.
The red, white, and blue theme, and maybe I've leaned a little bit into the red more as I've lived here. I'm a blue and white girl, always have been.
I think I've brought you more into the
I
red
think
world.
you have. I think you have. But bringing in the sofas that we've had for years, the white slipcovers with the monogram, and these are all very California-inspired pieces of furniture, and the beautiful legs, and adding all the textiles, all of the, wrapping them in the Indian blankets and embroidery on all the pillows. All of this just feels incredibly well suited to this environment. Bringing in old prints that are now discontinued because all the good ones are. This is an old hollyhock print from Lee Joffa that's done in beautiful colors now, but no one can get their hands on the red and teal, and I think it's so special.
You have a couple fabrics like that.
I do. I have the old hero fabrics.
Yes.
And really just like creating this type of seating area. Not everyone likes to have sofas or thinks to have sofas done like this. Sometimes they face them, but I really love bringing people as close together as I possibly can. And I am that number counter. I'm thinking, okay, 7-foot sofa, 3 people, boom, boom, 2 on the ottoman when you're having cocktails. So, you can pull that up for extra. I'm always thinking about floater pieces as well. So this room brings absolute joy and glee to me. It is all of the things I want to see on an everyday basis. And my beautiful collection of books, all of our collection of blue and white that has just been from Nantucket to just everywhere. We've been collecting these things.
I think what I also love about this room in particular is that, like you said, this is the room sometimes we eat in. This is where we do Christmas. This is where we hang out and watch movies.
Light a fire.
I like, and now I'm this way too, we're not afraid to have white sofas. And we're all over them, and dogs and babies, and I think that wrapping them in these textiles, it's such a fun way to show an easy way of living.
Nothing's too precious. And yes, beautiful fabrics and good pieces of furniture. I've had these chairs for, I want to say 30 years. I think I've had these sofas for 25. This ottoman probably for 30 years. Everything's gotten recovered in time. And, it's what I tell my clients. Buy well the first time. And just live with it and let it evolve with you. And whether it's the fabric you're recovering in or changing it to a different room. But I like the placement and the symmetry of things. I love lampshades. Some may say I have a problem.
You have a lighting problem.
I love lighting. I love low lighting, mid lighting, sconces, lamps. I love just having the light envelop you. And every night or every morning I come down, depending on the weather in the morning, and I just get everything lit. At night, I light all the candles in this room. Everything, as you can see, my books are a very big part of my decor. And those I've just been collecting just forever. And they're all on homes. And some of these date back to, the 70s. But they're a big part of why I do what I do and the energy of my home.
If you had to pick,
Oh boy.
what is your favorite piece in the living room?
It
Can't be the bench because that's mine.
Oh boy. Well, that's pretty good. I would say, this is one of the best collected rooms for me because it has all of my favorite things. The 3-tiered etagere that I'm able to style and put my books on. But these sofas, I think my monogram sofas are probably my favorite thing.
We've had those for so long.
Yeah, they mean a lot to me.
And your strawberry print.
And my strawberry print.
Where did you get that?
That is from an antique store in Los Angeles off of La Brea. And it has always had a special place in every home we've ever lived in. Yeah.
I feel like I have such a memory of that just being ever since I was little.
And if you look at this room, it's a lot of different prints. And the ability to welcome mini checks, big checks, flowers, little ginghams, you know, Indian textiles. I feel like chintz on the lampshades. I feel like if you can get that level and balance right in the patterns, they really tell the story of the room. So that's where this room is. It's lovely during the day, it's beautiful at night, and it's pretty in the summer, and it
Really
welcomes
cozy to
Christmas
Christmas.
like no other place. So this is one of my favorite rooms. The bar.
I want to call it our Christmas bar. We do use it all year round.
And I decorate it, and I put little white twinkling lights in there, and there's just something about having this spot in the house for holidays, but it's also dressing up the bar. And it's not just about the alcohol and the glasses, it's about your favorite little trinkets, your collections, you know, beautiful hotel silver that we've been collecting for years, and
The lamp.
the fun lamp. I love a bar lamp. All of my William Yoward crystal that has been probably one of my first collections I started on. And, you know, just storing the books in there and the little ribbons around all the little Yoward pieces, and Darling from this little French company for bottles, these cute little aprons. It all just means a lot to me. And Allie's husband, when we have a holiday, will come over.
He's the bartender.
He's the bartender. So in the winter, we are martinis. We
Whiskey
are
sours.
whiskey sours.
That's our Christmas drink of choice
That
this year.
has become that. And then in the summer, it's margaritas and chilled rosé. And it's just a nice little spot to have everything here. So when you're having people over, you're not back and forth into the kitchen. I find that so not fun to have to
Yeah.
like disappear and go find it. You have it all here, and all your company's right there. So right off of the living room is the dining area, and the kitchen's right next door. And in here, this area is the entry. And I feel like it's just that walk in, you get what the house is the second you walk in the door. And creating personalized items of hats and darling little lamps and plants and my favorite beach bag is just exactly what I want to see when I walk into somebody's house. Nothing too perfect, and just a slice of what really happens here. The best compliment that I've ever received about my home and my interiors would be a long time ago when my husband came to the home I was living in, and he said to me, "This is the way I want to live. This is the way people should live." And I thought, wow, that's exactly what I want people to feel like. Welcoming, invited, stay a while. They know great food's gonna be here, music will be going, and I think to have people associate me with that feeling that they want to have is just a big compliment.
Definitely. For me, and I know this sounds so like, oh, she's sitting right next to me, so I have to say this, but for me, whenever my girlfriends have come and visited in Charleston and they've been staying at my house and they have been there and said, "This feels like your mom's house."
Oh,
That is the best compliment, because I know that that means it feels warm, it's inviting, it's well curated, it smells good, it has good food and coffee, cooking, and all of that.
I love it.
As you can imagine, growing up with Leanne as my mom, I have been able to learn so much about design, keeping a home, entertaining, taking care of your family. The list really could go on and on. But I think one of the most important things that my mom has taught me is to collect what you love and to buy what you love and to be discerning with that. Like, there's no one that I would rather go to an antique fair with than her, because she's discerning. She's not sold by something just because it's cute. She really wants it to have a purpose, and that's kind of how I've learned to live with everything in my house too, and to not treat anything too precious. I think the things we buy are beautiful and they're meant to be lived with and used, and that's a really great thing that we've all kind of picked up on from you.
It's like walking through a flea market, and I'm like, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, and she's good. And then we always end up leaving. My older sister and I always end up leaving with maybe one thing after we've eyed 20, and they always end up being the best pieces.
Welcome into the dining room. This is another favorite room, and tonight we are prepping for a little entertaining, which is happening a lot in this house lately. Table settings. They're just my everything, and the collections that we have been using. This is an old style dish that we've had forever. They still sell them. It's from the Ivy in Los Angeles, and
We all have them now.
all my girls have them, and it's kind of like a staple when you live in LA. But mixing them with all of our other, dishes and the collections that I have, I started collecting china for all of the girls on their first birthday, so they'd have their own set of china when they moved into their own place. Today, we set our table with the Ivy, and then of course with our favorite linens from Heather Taylor Home. And I love the sweet approach with the bows and the lace, and then layering the placemats, and we could go on and on and on about the tables. This is a gorgeous piece that I got at Trade Secrets this year, which is up in Lime Rock, and I saw that and grabbed it. And everything else in this area are things that I've just truly, I say the word collected, but that is what I've been doing, is putting together collections that I could use all the time, and incorporating, plants and favorite baskets. And I kind of love the whole idea about, exposed shelves, the open shelves. And I know that's sort of a trend, but when I think of the way I do it, I don't think of it as trendy.
No.
I think of it as just being able to use and have access to all of your beautiful things. And this
What was this piece?
I bought this on First Dibs 15 years ago.
Oh.
And it was used in a show house in LA, and I bought it immediately. I loved it. And then since then, I've just been able to, it kind of cycles through. Different china we're using. The holidays, I fill it with little lights and red gingham hearts and tons of fun access. It's sort of like my little, it's where I can show off our stuff and put in the big lamps on here and the fun shades. It just creates all of the layers. I mean, if you could just have something in your home, like this right here says so much. But this room really is pretty great with all of the windows and the cafe curtains, which I just absolutely adore in any room, but especially in here. There was a photograph I saw once about windowsills filled with flowers, and it just always had me, I was so enamored with it. And then when we moved into this house, I had all these windowsills that I could use, the topiaries, the potted white geraniums, and those fun antique pots. And I just think that level of the sun coming in, the cafes, the wrought iron, and the geraniums is just very, very English. And I love that.
I think it also goes back to kind of what we've always said, is you romanticize the everyday. And
Yeah.
I think that doing this just on a random Wednesday, having the house look like this, is what you do anyways.
Yeah, I have to say this is a nice energy in this house, that plants belong with everything. Flowers, it's the indoor-outdoor life that we
Yeah.
talk about. There are a lot of plates in my collection. I have to say, I think these are some of my favorite. These are burley, and they are called Asiatic pheasant. And there's something just so beautiful about the design. And I've collected, I think, probably 50 dinner and 50 salad plates over the years. And it's all about how many people can you serve if you're just going to have a buffet. And then all of this furniture has been repurposed and repurposed. These are old Rose Harlow dining chairs that I've had for easy over 30 years, and they've been slip covered in an old Travers linen, which I like how worn it is. It's got like an old Ralph Lauren vibe. And one of my favorite things to do for myself and for clients are a host and hostess chair. And these smaller scale wingback chairs just feel so comfortable. You could sit here all day. You could make this your workspace if you want. And that I love that idea too. And then popping in a big old Ralph Lauren wing chair that really doesn't have any spot in here, but it's really fun to cuddle up with like a cookbook, or when I'm cooking, I'll have a glass of wine and sit over there. It's just, it adds a layer of comfort to the room. And this is an old farm table that we bought in Massachusetts when we first moved to Connecticut. So there's a lot of history in this room. This is a store that used to be in Los Angeles called Brenda Anton. And this is one of the first pieces my husband and I bought together 30 years ago. And it has traveled from one coast to the other and has had many different lampshades. But it's just so charming and happy, and it's patinaed so nicely, and one of my favorites. This dresser is so great. We've had it restained because it's had a lot of use, but this houses all of the linens. So collections aplenty that I've just been working on, and they just mean a lot to me. I love bringing them out. They all have different memories. There's holidays and kids' birthdays, and I remember them all, and I use them all. I use everything. We're in the kitchen, obviously, heart of the home, and
What cake did you make? Because I came downstairs at 7 a.m. and I was in like a wonderland of scent.
okay, this is the banana cake.
Yum.
So I make the banana cake and then I frost it with cream cheese frosting. Sometimes I'll add coconut, but during the summer months when we have these gorgeous flowers, I love to decorate my cakes. And I think I learned this little trick from the Ivy in Los Angeles. They serve these beautiful cakes just covered in tea roses, all different colors. So when we're entertaining, like we're going to tonight, I'll just bring in some hydrangeas, beautiful little garden roses in the pink, and then just these green leaves. And honestly, I just start decorating, and I'll fill it, and I'll go around the top, I'll go around the base, and it's just really pretty on a platter. It looks so great.
It's funny because I see, obviously, I'm more on the internet than you are, and I see so many people my age starting to do this and starting their journey entertaining, and I kind of see it, and I'm like,
yeah, been there.
I've had that in my house forever.
Been there, done that.
You really are more of a trendsetter than you think.
Oh, the young people.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I feel like all of our birthday cakes and everything were always decorated like this.
Well, this kitchen is tiny but mighty, and I keep everything around here that I need. Obviously, my strong-armed cookbook collection is right there, but really it's like such an enjoyable kitchen to be in. And with the breakfast nook right there, the dining room, just all the fresh light, it's a joy.
How long do you like these?
Well, you know what? It's funny. Sometimes I will just get in a little shorter.
And just kind of place it on top?
Yeah, but like, look at how sweet. It's just really, and
really
then we'll
pretty.
just fill the whole thing.
I'll make some of these shorter too.
And I love how it just all kind of repeats everything else that's happening in our house. You know, it repeats the china. It just all kind of just blends so seamlessly. I love that. Maybe another rose right there. I think the love of entertaining started for me when I was a young girl. I remember my siblings' birthdays, my parents' birthdays, bake sales at school, and I'd want to bring in cakes in 3rd grade. There's a comfort about taking care of people. There's also the idea of using all of the beautiful things that you have, and it's like interior design in a way. I put as much thought into every piece that's on the counter and everything that we're eating and planning a menu as I do into designing a living room.
Yeah.
So it's in my DNA. Entertaining is in my DNA, and I've got ideas for these later, and if I can keep all of my limes that I'll squeeze for margaritas and fresh homemade lime tortilla chips, and just keeping all of the things that create our life around me just feel very special. Entertaining is such an important part of my life. I help encourage clients, obviously my daughters. When I'm decorating a house, when I'm designing my own home, that is on the forefront. It is very important. And it's not just limited to a dining room. I'm envisioning how the living room is going to work. Sometimes I'll be walking past the living room and count how many seats are in it and think, oh, that's good for a buffet. I can get 12 people in there. And we have a beautiful wraparound deck here, so I can get 3 different eating areas. And I keep so many linens in the house. There's a constant changeover of napkins and linens and bringing out different sets of china for different occasions. I have given all of my daughters books on entertaining to write lists and recipes of their own, to create music lists. It's all so important to me. It goes hand in hand with living in my home. It's like one of the first things I think about. And I think with the girls, Allie has 2 sisters. It's
been a masterclass.
Yeah.
It has truly been a masterclass, whether we signed up for it or not. It has been, I mean, we couldn't have grown up in this house without really absorbing so much of what my mom does, even for just our family on a weeknight. It doesn't have to be a big dinner party happening. It doesn't have to be guests coming over. It could just be the 5 of us having dinner, and there's always fresh flowers cut. There's always the gorgeous linens and keeping the music going, a great playlist. It's just...
And tradition of recipes.
Yeah,
we like to keep traditions going.
I think that you do a great job of making every day romantic and celebratory. And
Thank
that's
you.
a big thing of what my sisters and I try to emulate in our houses.
Well, you're doing it. Welcome to my primary bedroom. This room is like living in a treehouse. It is everything that I wanted in design, from all the crochet, the quilts, the cable knit, the creamy white drapes. Everything feels very seaside cottage here, and that was the intention. We found this cute little antique stool, a little place in Fairfield. And I love the idea of just bringing in wildflowers and keeping it super not fussy, but just very bright and fresh. And I do love having this room so bright, but so warm and layered at the same time. So everything that this room has is exactly what I had envisioned for it. And the wallpaper from Leah Connell, to me, just says Seaside Cottage. The creamy white linen draperies with the sheared valance. It's casual but tailored at the same time. The Porto lights, the quilts, all of these layers, the cotton striped rugs, the porthole mirror. It's so comforting and so fresh. And this is a room you want to come in the afternoon and get cozy with a book in a snowstorm, all of it. And it's very fresh and feels like summer at the beach, and adding all these beautiful linens with all the embroidery detail, and it all feels very, very comforting. This is an old light fixture from probably 2 houses ago that we added Porto linens onto to make this shaded pendant, and we have one over on the small lamp as well. They match linens of the same. Porto is one of my favorite bed linen companies, and I love mixing that with Matu. All of the Lisa Fine shades. She's one of my favorite fabric designers. But I think for me, the wallpaper in here is just, It's just my favorite. And honestly, this is another room where scale works with many patterns if you really blend it. Whereas this rose tarlo fabric, which is incredible, called Bloomsbury, it just works with the Lisa Fine and it works with the Leo O'Connell and the Porto with the quilting, because it's just the scale of everything is blending. And I believe because the room is so white, it's letting those little moments just do their thing. I think a favorite room that we share together, probably two rooms. The guest room that we both have put a lot of effort into because that's where you stay, but it also is just a little jewel box of a room. And I have a design studio up on the 3rd floor, and that we've really collected and cultivated and made it into a very user-friendly but super pretty spot.
We've always had great offices around Greenwich, and we've always made them gorgeous because everything you touch just happens to be. But our studio upstairs, it really speaks to the soul of our company, I think.
That's a great way to put it.
It's warm, it's inviting, it's welcoming, and it's like the most aspirational place to work. She's very lucky to get to be there every day.
This is the guest room. This is the happy, comfortable, I call it the little Nantucket 4th of July room. And
I call it my room.
of course you do. Of course you do.
What's lucky for me is when I go on a work trip, because I live down in Charleston, when I go on a work trip, I get to come up and stay with my parents. And I get to stay in what is the guest room. Sometimes it's my nephew's bedroom, but I think I stay here the most. So I'm gonna call it my room for the purpose of this tour. And I mean, it has the Porto pillows, it has the Pottery Barn, the Porto quilt, the Land's End quilt. It's perfect.
It's layered.
I really never want to leave this room. I love where I live and I love my husband, but it's hard to leave this room sometimes.
I love the accents in here, and I do really love the textures of the Porto, and I love bringing in like the yummy quilts and all of the crocheted linens. They just have such a like heirloom, you know, peaceful vibe to them. And we started collecting samplers. These were made hundreds of years ago. Nantucket sells many of these in their antique shops. It's probably my favorite. But what I love is putting these old bows from Count and Tout from London, or Colfax and Fowler, sorry, behind them all. I think it just creates such a warm, happy, but yet like classic old traditional look. And then bringing in more modern lighting. So I really love that combination. And one thing, if I were asked what is my favorite thing in this room, there's many. These baskets, which have been reproduced many a times, all wonderful reproductions. These are the original baskets from a very special store in New York that is not there anymore, called Triage. It was up on East 75th Street for years, and that's Bunny Williams' original store. A treasure trove of indoor furniture, garden furniture, probably some of my favorite antiques that I own in the house. These are original French baskets with the scallop liner, and I have about 4 of them that I've scattered around the house. I love them. I love them for packing away my grandson's, toys or clothing when he's here, and just knowing that these are so close to my heart and that I've collected those, and then adding in my samplers. This one especially with the windmill and the cute house, and
That's my favorite.
And the flowers. It just looks like Nantucket, doesn't it? I know. It's very, very, very special. I grew up obsessed with the environment around me. It was taking notice everywhere. At school, people's homes, ballet class, anything. I was taking in the aesthetic that I was surrounded by. And I knew it made me feel a certain way. And when I was on my own, just buying decorations for my tree felt very important. I knew collections would be very, very important for me. And that's obviously been going on for a while. I'm still collecting. I have been drawn to, I think in the 80s, I was really drawn to Sister Parish, House and Garden, Old House Beautiful, 1981, I remember, like amazing issues. And I've just always thought my home and what I've surrounded myself and my family with was extremely important. And it was never something that was too precious. It was something that felt wonderful and just made you feel very happy. So probably I could say, yeah, I think I've always been curious about this world, and it became very apparent at a certain time of my life that I just needed to do it. And friends started asking me to do it. And that's really how my business formed. I moved to Greenwich 22 years ago from Los Angeles, where I was building my own houses there, decorating my own houses, and it just felt effortless. And then when I got to Connecticut, friends wanted some of that, and they'd ask me to help them, and boom, the business grew.
Mm-hmm. It was very cool because I was 10, I think, 10 or 11, when her office was in our house. And I would come home from school and see her and her bookkeeper in the office and just kind of walk by. And I always appreciated how beautiful our house was. I think my sisters and I always have. We're all very creative people in different fields. But seeing your work at home was such a cool thing to grow up with. And then with our office in downtown Greenwich for a long time, my little sister and I would go there after school. We'd tag along to site visits. It became very integral to our lives. And I would start interning, did a couple interns in...
At 16, right?
Did a couple internships for you guys, which was very fun because even though I was the boss's daughter at one point, I kind of just got to do all the grunt work, which is really important when you start in this business. And in college, I was sort of like, not so sure. I graduated, I got a job in marketing, I think. And that was July, and by September of that year, I finally came to my mom and I was like, why are we putting off the inevitable? Let's just start working together already. So now that has been almost 10 years.
It's incredible.
And it's been really great kind of working from the bottom of, being a project manager, working as a designer, and now us running the firm together has come so naturally. But it's been a great learning experience.
It's the best.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
I think what's been so great about Allie and I working together is that Allie brings not strictly like this bohemian vibe, but definitely something that is a little bit more flirty in a way that like really enhances what I'm already doing, what I was already doing. So the combination of that look, I think that's where we've hit our stride.
Definitely. It's really because obviously I've grown up and been surrounded by all of this beauty and my mom's style, and mine has slightly evolved from what yours is, but the basics are always there. And I think that when we really started to design together on projects is when our creativity really took off.
Which was during COVID.
Yes.
And we were like
stuck in an office alone, the two of us every day. We were crazy people, but it really created one of our most favorite projects. And it elevates every single project that we work on now together.
Welcome to the design studio. I feel incredibly lucky that I have this in my house. It was this perfect third floor space that I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I was thinking about transitioning offices. I really wanted to spend more time at home with our new puppy, Graham, who can't ever leave us alone and is always up here. It was a perfect space to just bring all of my fabrics, my fabric library. This beautiful window felt so, I don't know, just inspiring, and adding more of our books and our beautiful pottery, and able to just really access everything that we use right here, but create it
It's
in
so
a
inspirational
home
up here.
environment. Felt so good to me. I'm up here early in the morning. I'm here late in the afternoon. It's such a good motivation to work when you're in a beautiful spot. And I think looking out, you know, doesn't hurt that I'm looking out to this beautiful lighthouse, and we're on an island, so this whole room is just surrounded by water, and keeping all of our little things handy, keeping it tidy is interesting. These mood boards that we have up here inspire us, and these pictures are everything that we are thinking about. This is very summer inspired, but our brain is thinking this way all the time. Ina in the garden, fresh cut roses, beautiful china, wicker baskets. Some of our work is in here, inspirational images, Ralph Lauren, of course. And these boards are done by Abby Ward, and she's just a creative genius. So I feel very lucky that she has made these for our office. We have another one on the other side that I can show you. And keeping all the fabrics that, you know, like I said downstairs, hero fabrics, things that just make us really happy and that we go back to. Keeping all things organized in our clients' baskets. We always present with a basket. Once we've gotten the design direction, we go to the client's house, or they come here, and everyone is assigned a basket. And we start layering room by room. And so that's in the car when we're rushing over to meet them for a site visit, or it's sitting here when we're working, talking with vendors. Their basket's always accessible. I think the basket makes it seem kind of cozy. In the old days, it was like the big bag from the D&D, but we do baskets. Having all these work surfaces, very helpful. I like to keep this as clean as possible because I'll lay fabrics out. We'll have architects' plans here on the table. I'll meet with the architects here. We meet with builders. We have our clients that come in. We made this tablecloth from some namasame fabric and just some beautiful cotton trim that the doggy loves to get into, but keeping all of our things stationary, certain fabrics that we're working on, tile samples, all of these beautiful little things are just little touches that we love. This particular area is great for when clients come. We can sit down with a cup of tea, or if it's later in the afternoon, or we're talking about budgets, maybe a glass of wine. But this is just where we can flip through their lookbook. We can bring the fabrics over, sit down and, you know, lay it all out for approvals. And it's also just a nice place when you're working to be able to sit down, like after an hour or so of trying to focus and design, and just taking some time to mellow out, open up the doors, feel the ocean breeze.
So magical.
Just magical. So this room was a bonus and makes working at home feel like the biggest treat, honestly, ever.
And we've had these chairs, these two floral chairs, for a long time now. I think, when was the first time we used them? When we did Legends of La Cienega?
When we did the window for Gracie at Legends of La Cienega, and I had started a furniture line in 2016, which did not last long. It was a lot of work.
Still get questions about it, though.
Yes, we do. And these
maybe one day we'll bring it back.
These chairs with the scalloped edge. We actually still make these for clients.
We make these for clients a
they
lot.
love them. And just having like all of the beautiful green velvet, but this is actually a sleeper sofa. So when I have extra, my other children are home, they can stay up here and collecting different lampshades. And again, it's really just about mixing all of these patterns and mitering the stripes on here. Finding these lampshades on Instagram, which is just so funny when they pop up and you purchase. More Lisa Fine, beautiful chintz. I think it's one of the prettiest florals around. And it picks up so many other elements. Dark navy, more aqua, teal. And this whole environment surrounded by the beadboard, I think just feels really great. It's It's a room that really feels like the decor that we do in the homes that we work on in New England. We are now in the garden. We love gardening. My husband's an incredible gardener, and keeping these hydrangeas by the front door is really special for us. We have collected these old planters. Mrs. McDougall, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, from London, they brought pieces over and they sold them just at random places. And I was able to find these planters, which I adore. So we keep these close to the house, and beautiful blue hydrangeas in them. This is something that my husband loves. He loves roses, so he gave me a rose tree for Mother's Day this year, a rose tree for Mother's Day last year, and they are French roses, and they smell beautiful. Unfortunately, we just got past the last bloom. And then we love to keep delphiniums in the garden. I thought these were kind of fun in these plastic-lined baskets. They're just great and add so much charm. My bike that I love. And some more greenery, rose trees. We love boxwood. Love, love, love boxwood. And of course, I think probably one of my favorite signs of summer is a geranium. I love the white geraniums. I have red geraniums in the living room. And that's just a fun way, a little seating area to have the deck just feel so good and inviting. This way we can sit outside and we can look out to the water, have a glass of wine at night. And then we come into the garden, which again is small, but we focused on walls of hydrangeas. So we kept it kind of clean. And climbing roses, that's a new dawn, and it's one of our favorites, along with iceberg roses. Those are shrub roses. This thing came back to life and has grown into just this amazing shrub. This is a boxwood as well. And then we have just more of the hydrangeas. Pink, blue. We have a bird bath that we got at Trade Secrets a couple years ago. It's very special and really pretty. And these are called Annabelle. This is a very special hydrangea, and they get about 6 feet tall. So they're gonna cover all of this probably by the end of summer, and they'll be big white floppy blossoms. They're wonderful. And this down here is an apple espalier. Very, very important plant to us. Right now you can see the apples. They're darling little apples. By the fall, this will be filled. And then in the spring, it's just beautiful pink blossoms. Apple blossoms are beautiful. So that tree is very important to us, and everything is planted in these really wonderful English containers that my husband collects. And then we have more of the climbing roses. We have a beautiful French rose down at the end that I will probably continue to cut. This home equals my design aesthetic, is a way to put it, because coming from Los Angeles, things are fresh, things have the opportunity to get dressed up. There's not crazy architecture in homes there. There, lots of shiplap beadboard, French doors, gardens, indoor, outdoor lifestyles, and my aesthetic has always been an indoor, outdoor lifestyle. The gardens are a huge part of how I decorate a home. This house was such a perfect fresh palette that the indoor outdoor lifestyle, there's so many windows, it just all blends. So I think my design aesthetic growing up in Los Angeles with all of that fresh take on everything fits it really well.
Definitely, and I think all of the slip-covered furniture in the house, these sofas behind us, everywhere there's just gorgeous, very light fabrics.
Baskets everywhere you look, and flowers, yeah. The word home means comfort. The word home means happiness and safety and all the things that you see in a movie that you leave there and you're thinking, oh, I just want to feel that way. I want that experience. And when I think of home, I want my home to give me those feelings on all those levels. Romantic, calm, peaceful, beautiful. And I think home is, for me, feels like a welcoming, open arms.
I think family too. Family is probably where my brain goes first. Comfortability and happiness, definitely.
Happiness.
Homeworthy, we loved having you here today.
But it's time to go. No, we really have had the greatest day, but we have dinner guests coming. And thank you again for coming to our home in Connecticut.
See you soon.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Chelsea and I can't wait to show you my coastal beach cottage. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Lee McDermott. Welcome to my home. This is Derby Cottage. We are in Ventnor City, New Jersey, a beach town in South New Jersey. And what we love about this home is that it is from 1915 and was built by a Navy Sea captain, and his wife was the great granddaughter of Francis Scott Key, who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. So how cool is that? Not only that, but we have a beautiful barn in our backyard that originates from the dairy farm that Ventnor once was, and that is from 1888. So a lot of history here, and that's really where we started with the design process. So we've only recently moved into this home. Actually, you guys are our first guests here, so welcome and thank you for being here. When we first walked into this home, number one, it was an immediate love. Instant, I needed it, this was our home. But second to that, it needed a lot of work, and that is exactly what I wanted because I love a project. There were a lot of walls falling apart. The kitchen was from the 1950s, hadn't been updated. The house was well loved. The family that lived here before took great care of it, but it needed a lot of updating. I don't think it saw much renovation before the 70s. I live here with my 3 kids and husband, so I needed to make sure that this space was very livable, very worn in, nothing precious, nothing too stuffy. And based off of my history working at Anthropologie as a textile director, textiles was a huge, if not the most biggest influence in this project. Second to that is color. So a little story about my obsession with color, and you'll see it as we go through the house, is me and my family did a trip to Normandy. And when we were leaving on our way to Paris, we stopped at Monet's gardens and his home as well. And we toured his house. And to explain the level of inspiration that I got from that tour is, it's difficult to put into words. So the house was just filled with colors, so much color blocking, so many different exciting things happened, and instantly I knew I needed a space with more color in my life. And this was the perfect project for me to do that. Let's get started, shall we? Right now we are in the living room. So we took this space and broke it up into multiple different seating arrangements. The first one I'm going to show you here is our sitting space, our game table, and this is the space that anyone that walks in the door, they go straight to here. It is so cozy, so comfy. It works daytime playing games, but is also a great space at night to unwind. In addition to that, we have our kind of music area here. I have a collection of old vinyls from my mom and dad from the 70s and 80s, and I struggle to be in a quiet space. I always need music on. So this is probably one of the most important things in our family household that we find a space for. It's really a long-rooted thing for me. Even as a young child, my mom would say to me that I needed to quiet my head sometimes because I always had music on. So much so that she wrote a journal for me when I turned 16, and there's an entire page dedicated to my love of music. In addition to that, I was a classical ballet dancer, and my life was always filled with classical music. It was a big part of my upbringing. Music can really change mood, change how I feel about a space. So again, this was a really important thing for me. So in addition to that, we have the larger space where we're hanging out as a group or we're watching TV. Let's talk about ducks. Clearly, I really like them. So here is our duck wall. I couldn't explain to you exactly why, but the first thing that I bought for this house once we knew that we had it was this duck, this one specifically. And I knew immediately that I wanted to make art out of it. So throughout, I'd say 6 months to a year, I collected ducks from different vintage markets. And my husband helped me turn it into a wall of duck art, if you will. And my kids since have had a naming ceremony, so each duck has a name. In addition to that, one of the first things that I did when designing this room was the need for a gingham couch. I found a tear when I was looking through inspiration, and I found an image with a gingham couch and a massive ball lamp, and I could not get it out of my head. So out of searching and searching, we found this amazing gingham couch, and I feel like it really sets the tone in the space to be preppy and a little quirky. As I mentioned, this house was built by a Navy sea captain in 1915. Can you believe that? So when I was vintage shopping in Pennsylvania, we went all around the East Coast to shop for things. I found this Navy sea captain, and I immediately knew that he was meant to be for this house, and I strategically put him in a place that you could see him as soon as you walked in the door. Let's talk about the shutters. They were original to the house, and was another thing that I immediately loved about the house when we walked in. It makes it so much more romantic. The shadows that it makes brings me joy. So our fireplace here, I actually don't know when this was built or if it was original, but I do know that it was definitely here before the 70s. I have photos of the house in the 70s, and it was existing here. And painting it, color drenching it in the green of the room, I think really brought out the details. In addition to that, I don't know if anyone else watching has lots of kids, but mine collect rocks. So we decided to make art out of it and display them, and each one of them has a cool memory. This is not a working fireplace, and I was like, what do I do with this space? I originally had all of my old records tucked away over there, and I decided I really wanted them out so you can see them, you can flip through them. I'll kind of switch up which one gets the front spot depending on my mood, because it can kind of bring out different colors in the room. The built-ins and mirrors in this room were original. They were not green, and just like the fireplace, once they got painted, they felt so antique and brought the life back out of them. Once it gets dark out, one of our favorite spaces to come to is this little hidden bar that we have here. So once the kids go to bed, this is where we're hanging. You'll see a common theme as I walk you through the house. A lot of the stuff that I have is collected and passed down. I love things from my family members. I love that it had a history. I love that it's been used. So this here is handed down from my great aunt, and I really love it. We love to host. So this here, no one can see it. They walk in, it's a little surprise. So we love having it. I really had a hard time picking the right rug for here. So when in doubt, add two. We thought it would be fun to have a layered look. We wanted a pop of color, but too big of a color was too much for this space. So ultimately we decided to layer and add two, which I think is fun and a little unexpected. In addition to that, we have this bamboo coffee table. This was a Facebook Marketplace win. So on the coffee tables, we collected a lot of different things to showcase here. So one or two of them are vintage brass propellers, which everyone that walks in this house is scared to touch because they are very heavy. But I'm committed to them. They are staying no matter what. In addition to that, I have a little addiction to stacks of books. I collect books everywhere that I go, museums, other countries, other moments in my life, and I love to stack them, and each one of them is a little memory. One of my favorite books in here and moments in my life, I used to live across from, when I was a young kid, the Art Museum in Philadelphia, and they host an amazing collection of Degas. And that was the first place that I fell in love with ballet and oil painting. So I often take my kids there at least once a year, usually Mother's Day. So this was actually the last room that I colored in the house and was the hardest room to select a color. And I went back and did some research, was looking up inspiration, and there were two things that I really pulled it from. The trim in the old barn in the backyard, I actually pulled a piece off of this and had it color matched to kind of bring the charm of outside in. Additionally, we did a trip to Mallorca, Spain, and this is the main color of the trim throughout the country, and I constantly commented on how beautiful of a color it was. So it was important to me when you walked into this home that you immediately had a punch of color. And throughout the house, I really wanted to play with color placement, color pop. So here we decided to keep all of the color on the bottom and then leave the top to have some breathing space and opportunity to layer a bunch of art. I collected all of these artworks. They have a naive hand, which I really think speaks to the home. And I love that they all have a hint of nautical. All of these artworks had different nuances that drew me to them. This one up here is a vintage boat painting, but it's paint by number, which I absolutely love. We also have found objects that we are displaying like art. So this is a vintage fishing net. We have old keys. This is a fish weight. And there's even some art that we chose not to frame, put up on the wall as it is. So we really loved how this collection of art turned out, and I love that it draws your eye in, and then you can immediately see the beautiful runner that we sourced from India. It really ties the space in, brings the red in from the other spaces, and offers you a graphic element as you go up to the second floor. So this light fixture here too is original to the house, and I thought it was so sweet, so darling, that I decided to keep it. It really brings me a lot of joy. So I was looking for a catch-all as soon as you walk in, and I found this vintage toolbox, and I thought this would be really cool for that. We keep our little beach passes in here, the clicker goes here, all of the things that I don't want out and about. With my background in textile design for the apparel industry, textiles ruled my brain when it came to design. So one of the first things that I knew I wanted in this room was a plaid rug. And then I kind of layered from there. So we have the plaid rug here, which I picked up the colors in there and found all of these vintage pillows that I think complement them. We have another layer of plaid over here on top of the collected chairs. And then we have lots of textures and colors coming through the different objects that I have displayed. We collected a lot of different treasures to kind of keep out on the table, but we also wanted everything to be very user-friendly. So you can touch it, nothing can break, all of those things. So we have a vintage sack that actually has my husband's business name on it, which we thought was cool, and we use that as the little mini runner. Then we have these beautiful enamel serving platters, followed by, of course, another stack of books. And then lastly, I have this beautiful old block that I brought back with me from India that is used to print textiles. Another thing that I really love about this space is the table. So this table is another great find on Facebook Marketplace, and it is filled with splatters of paint and scratches and is uneven. I just adore it. I mean, could you imagine all of the conversations that were had around this table, all of the different meals that were had? This is over 100 years old, and I absolutely love it. This chandelier here is original to the home, and I absolutely love it. The only thing that I did to it was added these blue lampshades, which I thought were a little funky, a little weird, a little unexpected, and tied in all of the colors. So the sconces here are also original. You can only turn them on and off with like a little button over here. And they're so charming and so beautiful. They really elevate the space because everything else is very casual, very quirky, where this has a more regal feeling. In addition to that, we were obsessed with the history of the home and the history of Ventnor City. So I found this map here that I had framed. I don't know exactly when it was made, but it was definitely made between 1888 and 1915 because you can see the barn in the backyard is here, but the home is not built yet. So that gives me a good indication that it was between the time that the house was built and when the barn was built. Color is one of my biggest inspirations, and I wanted to really push myself in design of not just the colors that I chose, but the placement of them. And I was able to do that through both trim placement and my color selection. So I strategically put a border trim here to kind of give you a stopping point for the ceiling color and bringing it down into the space. I feel like it actually lifts the whole room and makes it feel bigger. It also is a great tie to the kitchen. So it feels like its own space, but it also connects to the kitchen. This bench here was an antique find, and it sat in my house, in my garage for years. I didn't have anywhere for it because it's super deep. And as soon as we saw this space, we knew this was a great spot for it. I had wanted to do like a built-in bench window seat, but I like that it feels more collected this way. Most everything in the house is secondhand, which is something I'm really proud of. We spent a lot of time sourcing and a lot of time looking for all of these treasures. Another thing that I love about this space is the chairs. I found the table first, and then I started collecting chairs that I thought would look good, but I didn't want all the chairs to be the same. So each one is a little different and has a story within itself. So the space that transformed the most, by far, is the kitchen. This kitchen originally was 1940s, 1950s, and everything that you would expect with that. So old appliances, a lot of linoleum, and it needed a complete refresh. So we gutted it and started over. And do you want to know what's really cool? When I mentioned that this house is all secondhand, that includes the kitchen. So this kitchen we found secondhand and refurbished it, and we installed it into this house. So originally I had a completely different idea for this kitchen. I probably designed it 4 to 5 times, but when we found this existing kitchen, we let it tell us what it needed to be. So we took all the measurements of the existing cabinets and kind of piecemealed it into the space. And then my painter did an incredible job paint matching it because we kept the original color and he just patched in anywhere that needed to be. We also updated all of the knobs and pulls. That definitely changed what it looked like originally. and then we added our own countertop. I originally wanted soapstone, but it was out of the budget. So we found this leathered granite that I think does just as good of a job as soapstone. We kept the space that was open to the dining room without uppers. And then the space that's tucked around over here, we call this more of the pantry space. Here where we have more uppers, glass detail, and this is kind of what holds all of the things for the house. So over here is all of our dishware. It all can be found in one space, where across from it is the pantry area where all of our food is held. In addition to that, over here we have some of the history of the home, as well as some custom art that was made inspired by the home. So I'll talk you through that. Here's an article from 1975 about the barn that still stands in the backyard. A wonderful friend and local artist, Evan B. Harris, made a bunch of illustrations for us inspired by the home. My dishware is also collected, so it's a big mishmash of a bunch of different things. So one of them is some jade that is handed down from my father's side. And then there is this bowl, which is my favorite. Look at this beautiful color. This was my grandmother's mashed potato bowl. I guess they ate mashed potatoes all the time. So no mashed potatoes for me, not today, but we have some oranges. And then my Aunt Edie, this is a hand-me-down from her. So everything is collected and curated and has a lot of meaning for me. I absolutely adore a high-low moment. It is very important to all homes. And this here is one of my favorite lamps in the house, and it is from Target. And I love that it brings the plaid from the dining room into this space. I also do not love overhead light at night, so this gives me a nice moody moment. So my favorite thing about the kitchen, and actually the hardest thing for me to pull off was, or is, my tea station. So I drink tea all day, every day. And I really wanted a place to kind of hold everything for me. I think I bought 3 pieces of furniture for the space and wound up not using them. And then finally found this one. And what I love about it most is it has all of this trim work in it, and it kind of looks like a stripe, which ties in all of the textiles throughout the house. Another thing that I love about here is my tea, and I know that's weird, I'm a tea snob. This is a tea that when I used to travel to Paris for work, I traveled there on and off for about 10 years, and across from my favorite boutique hotel called the Borty Borg was this tea shop. And when I traveled there often, I would pick up a thing of tea and bring it back, and it would last me until I would go again. Now I can just buy it on Amazon, which is way less cool, but I still love it. And it's the only tea that I will drink. So not only do I need 1 tea kettle, but I need 2. So I need my electric kettle for how many times I'm filling it up all day. But then I also have like a nostalgic moment where I love to put a tea kettle on the stove, let it come to a boil, and drink it that way. So, and I also have a few tucked away of ones that I want to sit out if I'm having like a friend over for tea, which I actually do quite often. Another thing that I love is my little cow guy. My daughter's 2nd birthday party was tea themed, and I collected a bunch of old tea saucers and things like this, different accessories that went with the tea, and this is left over from that, so now it's mine. So this artwork here has Anna Key's name on it, who was the owner, as well as the Navy ship captain, who was her husband. And again, Anna Keyes was the great-granddaughter of Francis Scott Key, who penned the Star-Spangled Banner. How cool. Let's head out to the backyard. So this is one of my favorite spaces, the reason why we bought the house. We are about a block from the beach, and outdoor space is really important for beach living. So we just set up the outdoor space here and I cannot wait to use it. I really wanted to play with textures and pattern here again. So we have this great rug that gives us a graphic moment, and then a green umbrella that has the scallop edge and the piping. Let's go check out my favorite space, which is the barn. Follow me. So don't be scared. This is my next project, but I had to share it with you guys. This is the old barn and stables, original to the property from 1888, and it has a lot of work to be done. Let me tell you what I'm planning. So this space here is going to be the main living room and a small dining room nook, and it opens up to the house here. So this will be very indoor-outdoor living. I am so excited about this space because when we have guests, this is kind of the overfill. They'll have their own little space. We're gonna have a small kitchenette, a living room, and then 3 bedrooms. Another thing that I love about this space is it's gonna feel very different than the house. I actually feel like this is gonna be a more desaturated moment. So I'm gonna let all of the wood, all of the original integrity of the house shine, and less color, less collected art. Really, this space is the art itself. And I don't wanna over style it, over touch it, or do anything that would take away from that. So really quick, let me bring you upstairs because this barn has a 2nd floor and a lot of space to design up there. All right, so here we are on the 2nd floor, and as you can see, it's beautiful. When we plan to restore this space, because it truly is going to be a restoration, we want to keep everything. So all of these hay barrels, this is how they used to get the hay down to the horses. They would lift this up and shoot it down. So this space here, we plan on making the primary bedroom. It's grand. The light really shines in a moody way. And I can't wait to dive into finding the right furniture for this space. Another room that I want to show you, yes, there is a 2nd room up on the 2nd floor. For an old barn and stable, you wouldn't expect so many nooks and crannies. We're going to make this space a bathroom. Can you see it? Because I can. Imagine this space. I want a big tub, old vintage tile that we're going to source. It's going to be absolutely amazing. All right, guys, so even though I'm very excited about this project, let's get back to the main house because I have more to show you. So let me take you to one of the bathrooms that we completely gutted. So this space here was, I think decrepit is the best word. I mean, it was falling apart. So here's where I got to really have fun with tile and high-low, and I'll explain what I mean there. So with the tile, we decided to do stripe. It is not an expensive tile, but making the stripe pattern really elevates it. And then we splurged when it came to our waterworks fixtures. It's kind of like jewelry, and it really brings the room to an elevated place. Another thing that I loved about this room was kind of a play on stripe. So stripe on stripe on stripe and so on. So you will see stripes in every which way here. We have the tile. Then I also hand painted this mirror that I bought from Home Goods. So another low moment next to the high. Stripe curtain down here. And then we also have our vintage 1800 fish lithographs that I then hand painted, watercolored the matte to kind of make them feel more modern. And then we have lots of fish touches in here because why not? We're right by the beach. Okay, so another place that we cut costs was doing a penny tile down here. But what we did to kind of make it special, or a little wink, is we made a little pattern within here. So I got down, did a little pattern myself, and then any space that I work on, I always like to add a little something to the floor. So here we have a little high. All right, so let me take you upstairs. If you think I had fun with color down here, wait till you see what I have. So let's talk about the primary bedroom, one of my favorite spaces and color combinations. I struggled to figure out what to do with this space, and I talked to a few of my friends in the industry, and they told me to look into hotels that I've traveled to and pull reference from them. What would you want to stay in when you weren't home? So where I landed on was the Chelsea Hotel in New York, which is my namesake. My parents met in Chelsea, New York in the 1970s, and their very first apartment was across the street from that hotel. So after visiting it, I fell in love with their mocha brown mixed with pink, back to red, and I knew that that was what I needed for this space. So another point of reference for here, you'll kind of notice each room has like a little theme. We have the fish room, we have the duck room. While here we live on Derby Avenue. So we thought it would be fun to play up the Derby reference. And we have, again, old vintage lithographs. I didn't realize I had such a thing for lithographs, but I do. And little references of horses throughout. Through my history of sourcing textiles, I have collected and curated a lot of my own. So you'll see throughout the house lots of textiles, and this is one of my favorite ones that I bought while I was in India. So I first fell in love with the fashion industry with an internship that I had at the Pennsylvania Ballet in their costume department. That's where I fell in love with textiles and restoring old, beautiful things. And then I interned and freelanced for companies like Michael Kors and Ralph Lauren. And then the longest part of my career was at Anthropologie as the director of textiles, where I had the privilege of traveling around the world and collecting and curating beautiful pieces of history to present back to the design teams to pull inspiration from. One thing that was important to me for this space was the color, and I wanted to make sure it didn't get too dark. I know color drenching is a big thing right now, and I guess you consider the space color drenched because the walls, the trim, the molding are all brown, but I wanted to keep it light and bright. So I added trim at the top of the room and then brought the white down slightly, which I think really brings the space up and allows it to be moody, but light at the same time, which was kind of the whole trick. Coming into this space here, I have a few collected items from traveling. One of the things that I love most is this antique tile here that I use as kind of a coaster. It's something that I got in Normandy, which was a huge part of the inspiration of this space. So we stayed in Normandy right outside of a beach town called Deauville. And I guess I didn't do my research a ton. I didn't know what I was about to walk into and stay at for a month, but it was filled with horses. I could walk straight from my house to a horse racing track, but then I was right on the beach, so I was able to watch horses walk up and down the beach every morning and every night. It was their way of giving them some rest. We were able to see evening polo matches on the beach from the local university kids, and we really fell in love with the preppy charm that that town had. A continuation of my secondhand items, this couch was something that I found from Facebook Marketplace, as well as this beautiful coffee table. It has lots of inlay and details. It was such a good find. And our lamp over there, I have a thing for Target lamps because look at the shape of this shade. It's so architectural, so beautiful, and right at Target. So one of the important things when you're a collector of oddities like I am is layering in some modern elements. This lampshade, the sculpture of it is so beautiful and offers a juxtaposition to the rest of the collected and curated house. I already did a room inspired by stripes, so here I really wanted to have fun with plaid, so why not add it to the ceiling? It was important to me throughout this house that I did not forget about ceilings. And here was the perfect place to add a punch of pattern, and was another place that I added the trim and kind of brought the pattern down into the room. So originally with this house, I wanted a yellow kitchen. Inspired by a visit I had to Monet's Gardens and house, one of the rooms was a completely drenched yellow room with brown and blue details, and I knew I needed to use that as inspiration for a space. It didn't work out with the kitchen, so I brought it into this room. The space is color drenched with the yellow, which kind of brings it back to an old world feel. Another love that I have from traveling has been Welsh blankets. So as someone that worked in the textile industry, every time I am shopping, I'm not just looking at like the garment or the style, I was looking at the jacquard pattern within. And Welsh blankets have the coolest patterns. I love to collect them everywhere I go. There is this one vintage shop in Brooklyn called Stella Dallas that I often find the best Welsh blankets. So you're gonna see them throughout every space. I am a tennis connoisseur. I'm just kidding. I'm actually really terrible at it, but I do pretend to play. I wanted to bring an element into this room. I wanted it to stay preppy and fun. So I collected a bunch of tennis rackets and kind of displayed them as art. I feel like it's graphic. The strings have a pattern within it, which mixes in the plaid. So it feels like a pattern on top of a pattern. Throughout the house, you're gonna see a theme of layered textiles. And in this space, I feel like it was very successful. So to me, it's not just about having one pattern or one color, it's about how it layers. So here you have the plaid on the wall, you have the graphicness from the rackets, then you have a floral pattern here on the bed, and then brought down all the way to the floor where you have floral meets graphic. So all together, it really brings the space together. So during a trip to New York, one of my kids was in a drawing phase and he made this illustration of the Empire State Building, and I loved it so much that I had it framed. But what I love here is the tortoiseshell-esque yellow frame with the yellow mat. So it's monochromatic and it makes it feel a little bit more elevated and cool. All right, so another thing that I love in this space is this home goods find. How darling is this lamp? Is it modern? Is it vintage? I have no idea, but I love it. Here is our upstairs Jack and Jill bathroom, and who here had to deal with an old pink bathroom in their house? We certainly did, and we decided to embrace it. So we kept all of the original tile, both of the pink sinks because you need to, and even this very short pink toilet. And we decided to play off of that. So we were on a budget here, so we did pop tile on the floor, and we decided that pink and green was a cool combo that we wanted to play with. So we brought it in through the artwork and through the textiles on the shower curtain. What I love most about this home is the amount of time that we spent collecting and curating all of the items in it, from vintage shopping to flea markets to rummaging through old things and hand-me-downs from my family members. Everything has a meaning. And that, for me, is what makes the space special. So, Homeworthy, thank you for coming along, but I've got things to do. I have 3 kids to pick up from school, sports to get to. You gotta get out of here, all right? Thank you.
On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're in Rhode Island visiting the stunning coastal cottage of interior designer Leslie Banker. Known for her knack of blending old and new, Leslie's home is a reflection of her bold design choices and her philosophy of creating spaces that feel both connected and alive. From the vibrant yellow dining room walls to the mandarin red accents, Leslie's home is full of colors and textures that tell a story. Today, you'll get a glimpse of how she balances these elements and hear about her book, Think Like a Decorator. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Leslie. This is my house in Rhode Island. Please come on in. Hi, I'm Leslie Banker. I'm an interior designer. I'm a book author, and this is my house in Rhode Island. And this is my dog, Minnie, who's going to come along for the tour. This house is an old Victorian summer cottage. The oldest parts of the house were built in the late 1800s. This part that we're standing in now was added on later, but that was still around the 1920s. And what we have here is really a little bit of a mishmash of older and earlier parts of a quirky, very quirky summer cottage, which it has a lot of its original charm, which means it's not insulated very well. And, you know, we've got old single pane windows and stuff like that, but we love it. It's not a perfect house. It's a house that we roll with. What you'll see in this house has a lot of old family furniture that we, inherited from grandparents and from parents. And so a lot of this is bringing the past into the future. And then I also like to mix it up with some modern elements. And that's my personal style. When I work on design projects, we really encompass everything from modern to traditional, but I always love to mix old and new. I think it's part of the charm of a place. So this is my front hall. The key to success, I think, in a front hall is having the basics, which is a place to sit, to put your shoes on and off, a table by the door to throw your keys on. And in this case, I inherited this bamboo hat stand from my mother, which has, fits this old Victorian house perfectly and is super handy for, in the summer, you just grab a hat and go. The rug here I have is an indoor-outdoor rug, just because we're here in the summer a lot. There's wet feet and sand, and we just embrace that. It is what it is. We're living in the house. We're not worrying about the rug because it's indoor-outdoor. And Minnie loves it. And this house, we still have old radiators. We just embrace them. We haven't tried to cover them. It's good in the winter for drying things. Let's go into the living room. So this is my conversation grouping in my living room. And what I'd say about it is I think there's a fine art to creating a conversation grouping, which is people need to feel like they can talk to each other easily. They need to be able to put a drink down easily. So you need to think through, one needs to think through how every space, the distance between the furniture, and that there's a little table next to all pieces. And I'm a huge fan of having little footstools like these that can tuck under a table, and then it's great if you have a younger visitor or even just for a grown-up to pull up a seat. This I adore. I found it in New Orleans on Magazine Street. There's a ceramic artist. It's Lil Bird Studio, and she does the most amazing work. And I've been using this all the time. And this, again, is just an old brass tray. I actually have no idea where it came from, but, it's important to layer things, I think. This looked empty alone on here, so creating layers and adding stuff is always a good idea. This is kooky, but it's, one of these old leather pigs, and you can sit on it. It's better if you're a smaller person doing that, but again, it's just like a little thing to either trip over probably, or someone could pull it up and sit on it. It has happened before. And lighting's really important. You want to make sure you've got light on either side of a sofa and evenly throughout the room. Here we have embraced this, having an open bar here with the idea that our house is about having friends over, hospitality, and someone could just come over and help yourself, and it's not a big deal. So I put this bar on my grandmother's old campaign table. I got this, I love having like a little tiny bouquet right there to liven it up. And then we keep mixers, whether people are drinking alcohol or not. You can grab a ginger ale or a Diet Coke right here. When people come over, I put ice here, but it's all quite simple. And we have the books here, so you can peruse some poetry as you mix your drink, like Kenneth Rexroth or whatever your passion might be. So we embrace this. These are old film reels that I bought many years ago. In Santa Fe, a friend was moving and he was selling his stuff because he didn't want to bring it all to the next place. And I got these film reels, which I now have had for 30 years, and they've always found a corner just kind of standing up somewhere in the house. I've come to kind of love them and always like having them around. And then when I talked about mixing old and new, this is a Pantone Bar Boy, sort of high 70s, maybe 60s design. And I just love having these two things together, because if it's all old brown antiques, it's going to feel fussy. And I think the key is mixing it and having softer materials, harder materials together in the same space. But this is, it's a finger pincher, but when you move past that, it's a great little storage. So we have our cocktail napkins and coasters in here, and it's also another surface. Like if you're making a drink and you want to put something down, you can do that. So this is my sun porch. It's quite original. It has the old clapboard single pane windows. It's not winterized, but we stay out here and have meals out here and hang out here until it gets too cold, basically. And it is not a mildew-free zone, and we struggle with that, but it sort of is what it is. And so out here, I have some of my favorite things. I love blue glass is one of my favorite things. I love how the color works with a tablecloth or a table. I love, these are old terracotta plates. They're from a Italian ceramicist, and I love the old terracotta. They're not dishwasher friendly, but for special occasions and special people, we do break them out. We have an old lamp from my grandmother, and I have to just say here that I've just put a new lampshade on this recently. There was some mildew on the old one, but a really simple, not terribly expensive upgrade in a house is new lampshades. Like fresh, clean lampshades that fit well, and it's like a facelift, a huge pick-me-up. This is a copy of my book that I wrote. It came out last year, published by Rizzoli. It's called Think Like a Decorator. And a lot of the things I'm talking about today are things I write about in the book. And, a lot of it's what we talk about is thinking about, what bugs you in a space, because that gives you kind of a guideline for how to move forward with changing a space. And a lot of things we talk about is embracing, just creating what the narrative is for your house and your space. And it doesn't need to be perfect. Not everybody needs to love it, but you need to love it. So how do you want to live? And in our case, we love having family dinners, a few friends over, and we do it really regularly. So this is a great spot to sit, to have a meal with some friends, and to surround ourselves with things that make us happy. And I would say right now, there are a lot of patterns going on. Like I've got the toile tablecloth and the killam and this hand-painted ottoman. And would I consciously go out of my way to plan to put these things together? I would not. But, and my dress. It is kooky. But I started putting these things together, and I kind of liked it. Like I see yellow, I see geometric patterns, and I see flowers, and those things, to my mind, all just work together. So we're going with it. Father-in-law had Parkinson's. He sadly died a couple years ago, but in his later years, he started painting, in part as kind of therapy for his Parkinson's, and he loved it, and he really took to it. And we like his paintings a lot. It's something that brought a lot of joy into his life, and so it's really nice to have these here as a reminder of, something that made him happy, but also, this idea that you, as life goes on, can continue to find things that you like to do, new hobbies, new passions. So anyway, this is something that we, have hung here with a lot of intention, and love having it here. Here's our little table that we comfortably sit 3 around, but we have squeezed 5 or 6. It was very cozy, and we eat at this table a lot. And actually, this table and these chairs, when I was in my 20s, were the first piece of furniture I ever bought for myself. And I'm looking up, there's a picture in my book, which is, they were in my first apartment, which I have pictures of in my book. And they're Prouvé. It's a Prouvé table and Prouvé chairs. And I got them from Vitra. And at the time, it felt like a crazy amount of money to spend. I was just, starting out on my career. And I've had them now in every house I've ever lived in. And they're a perfect little size. And they work. So I have 0 regrets about it, and would really encourage anyone, without overdoing it, but if you find something and you can make it work, to do it. If you feel like it's something you could carry along in future places, it's good to build a collection of things you can carry with you that work in multiple areas. So, and I love a small round table. We've lived in this house for 18 years. My husband and I bought it shortly after we were married. We were living in New York and living in a rental apartment. And we came up, we didn't really mean to buy a house up here at that moment. We came up to visit friends, and we had a little bit of a real estate looky-loo moment and just went and looked at a couple houses, and we just fell in love with this place. It's quirky, it's rambly, it's in town, so you can walk to town easily. And we decided just to we were lucky to be able to make it happen. We've been thinking we would eventually buy a place, but the place presented itself to us, and we jumped on the opportunity. So we've been here for 18 years, and we have not made really substantial changes to this house. I painted this floor red. It was originally blue. We've done some systems upgrades, but the house really is as we originally moved in. So that's it for the sunroom. Let's go next to the dining room. Here, it's this way. Welcome to my dining room. It's yellow. I will say that yellow can be a controversial color. Some people, I think it's like cilantro. Some people have an aversion to it, but I happen to love yellow, and I think that's because I had a yellow bedroom when I was growing up. And I think a lot of decorating for all of us is trying to either recreate or run away from things like how we grew up. Like, some people are super tidy because they grew up in a messy house, or, some people are constantly trying to recreate their childhood living room. Or I just think a lot of the past informs the present. And in my case, I love yellow because I have happy memories of my yellow room in my childhood. This is Pharaoh and Ball Babouche, the color, and I love it. So the other things I would say is this chest, it was my grandmother's, and right around the time that we got this house, she had to move out of the bigger, like the house that she had lived most of her life in to a nursing home. So some pieces of her furniture were available for, family members. And I took this chest. I thought it was really pretty. It's bird's eye maple. And it was right when we were moving in here and we didn't have any furniture. So I just decided to use it here, even though it might be a little unusual to have a chest in your dining room. But I keep napkins and placemats and forks and knives in here, and it works great. Also kind of as a sideboard instead of having some more formal sideboard. And these are these LED lights, which I just think are fabulous. They're great to have around. We move them to the table sometimes, or you can take them out to the sun porch. And then these are, I think they're old perfume canisters. That's what my mother told me. And there was a sort of funny story about them, which is my parents had them in their house. My mother was an interior designer, and so I worked with her for a long time, and I took her business over after she died about 10 years ago. But because she was an interior designer, she had nice things, and they also often sort of, I don't know, she wasn't that attached to a lot of things. And so she had these, there's a pair of them, and I always loved them. I loved the colors. And one day when I was a teenager, I was coming home and there was a store. We lived in New York, and there was a store at the bottom of our building. And I saw basically these in the window. And I was like, Mom, that's so weird. There's like the exact same canisters in the window downstairs. Did you see that? And she was like, and it turned out she had decided to de-accession them. She was kind of redecorating, and she had put them on consignment in the store downstairs, and I basically made her go back and get them for me. And so then they were mine, and I've always loved them. I love the colors. I love how they're hand painted. This is an old Carl Springer table. It actually was my mother's desk at her office. She was actually, I would say, she was friendly with Carl Springer. They collaborated together a lot on pieces of furniture in the 70s and 80s. And there actually is even a Carl Springer coffee table called the Banker table, and it's a design they worked on together, or he made for her. I don't totally know the story, but there is a design called the Banker table. So anyway, this is Mom's desk. It's been so many different colors. It's been brown, it's been red, it's been green. And so we love the form, and we just keep spraying it or stripping it and spraying it, when it needs it, when time goes on. And this is a Noguchi paper lantern, which is one of my favorite solutions when you just want something simple, not too expensive, and classic. It does the trick. It's a nice soft light. I ordered these directly from the Noguchi Museum gift shop, which you can do online. And this was kind of an accident. I was buying a piece of art for a client online at a ragu auction, and this was the lot that I was on the phone bidding, and this was the lot that came up before the piece of art that I wanted, and like no one bid on it, and it was, they were like, does anyone want it for $800? Does anyone want it for $700? And finally I was like, I'll take it. Like, so I took it, and here it is. It's a tapestry based on a Picasso painting, and this is supposed to be like looking through a keyhole, and that's a person. And I've had it cleaned. Sometimes I feel like it needs to be brushed or something, but And this is something my husband brought to the marriage. This is an ancestor of his, and it's a family portrait that has been handed down, and he has it. And in the small world department, which makes it appropriate to hang it here, is this man actually lived not far from where we are now, in northern Rhode Island, or it might be southern Massachusetts, not sure, I forget, but in the general area. These were my mother's, and she frankly pushed them on me. I think she found them at some, like, she didn't pay a lot for them. She found them somewhere. She thought they were very attractive, and she basically got them and gave them to me, and I needed something for the wall, so I put them up. But I think they are a little wobbly, so I don't actually light the candles that often. It feels a little dangerous without careful supervision, but they do the trick. They're nice. They're nice. I'm realizing that I think my eagles are facing away from each other, and they should be facing each other, so I probably should swap them. And if I was really committed to these, I would get them wired so they could be electrified and hang right, which now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should do, because I think they do look pretty good right here. We've been told that this house originally was built during the end of the Civil War, and this was sort of an officers' club, and that this room was the kitchen, and the room behind these doors was the kitchen, and this was the dining room. So this pass-through just came with the house, and I once thought about closing it up, and I'm really glad I didn't. It's kind of just a funny little detail. We keep them closed because the guest room is on the other side of the doors, and it's sometimes guests don't love the idea that you just open the doors and welcome them to the day from the next room. But anyway, I said this house is quirky and not perfect, and here we are. This is quirky and not perfect, but we've decided to embrace it. This is a print that my husband had. It shows the Eberhard and Ober Brewing Company from Pittsburgh, and his family a long time ago was from Pittsburgh, and so this had sort of a history for him and his family, and he had the poster, and my mom framed it for us once as a Christmas present, as a holiday present. So and I think the colors go really nicely in here. And the only other thing I'd say is this rug here is a Ushak that it was my grandmother's. She had lots of dogs. It came with a warning that it might have had some, perhaps a dog might have peed on it or something, but we cleaned it, and it wears really well. It's an old rug, and it I think warms up the room and brings a lot of character. On the other side of the dining room, we have a little seating area, which is a little unusual, but the way the house is laid out, people walk through the dining room to get to the kitchen, so we couldn't have like a huge table. You'd have to walk around it. So we have this little love seat, which again was my grandmother's, this time on my mother's side, and I had it recovered. These are pillows, little pillows. I think it's really nice to have a throw. To feel furnished, a nest needs layers. It needs throws and pillows and books on the table to make a place feel really finished. As people think about their own houses and how to design them, a lot of it has to do, I think, with being kind of your own best stylist and really like looking at your tabletop and thinking about each space. Does it have clutter on it? What would look nice? So in this case, we have some books this is my new, I just got the Bunny Williams book. We do play a lot of backgammon, so I have a backgammon board here. And then one of my favorites, Pirates, Fact or Fiction. It's sort of fun to peruse sometimes. And this is a drawing done by an old friend of my mom's named Edward Dudensing. He died a while ago, a long time ago actually, but in the 70s and 80s, 1970s, 1980s, he did these drawings for fun and friends bought them. He, wasn't a big commercial artist, but I just love them and I've always grown up with them. I love the colors and the kookiness of it. And it's really nice, I have to say, to have a little seating area in a dining room because if you have friends over for dinner, it's nice to get up from the table and say, like, let's sit, or we go into the living room or here, but this gets used a lot and it's right next to the kitchen, so we don't have an open kitchen, so when people can sit here while people are cooking and you're kind of within shouting distance. And I do have a thing for little chairs. These, I find them, I don't know, I just find them and I like them. Sometimes people sit in them. And this is an old French furniture designer, Roger Capron. I hope I'm getting the name right, but I got this on first dibs. It felt sort of perfect, low and round for our beach house here. Not trying to be too fancy or anything, and I like the fact that it's old. So next I can show you the bedroom, which is over here. So here we are in the bedroom. This is, again, a small, cozy room. And I would say I have these old Porto blanket cover and pillowcases, which I just think are so pretty with the butterflies. And I like to leave it, I like to use them. I feel like if you have old things that you like, you got to use them or else what, they collect dust. So here they are. And again, in this room, I always think there's something about mixing flowers and florals with something more graphic is a combination that tends to work. So I do love this with this black and white ram print, which my friend, who's an artist, her name's Jane Wright, she did a limited edition of these prints, and I kind of like the seriousness and the contrast with the bedspread. And we have, I think, you like bedside table, especially if it's a guest room or a space, but it's just nice to throw a few little flowers. And again, consider all spaces and the comfort. It's always nice to have a throw on the foot of a bed just to make it look finished. And I've got this actually, my husband has a sort of distant cousin who was in England, a well-known batik artist, and I think she had some pieces at Winchester Cathedral. I could be wrong. Her name's Thaddeus Blacker, and I mean, if you really study this, it will blow your mind a little bit, like how she got with batik all these different colors, and they didn't turn into a big smudge pool. Like, I mean, these beautiful clear colors. So, I mean, this feels like a sort of special thing that we have. It could be next on our list for reframing. This is Regency bamboo piece that my mother had in her old bedroom, and it fit perfectly right here in the guest room. And having a chest like this in a guest room is a great, you could keep your wrapping paper down in the bottom drawer, and I don't think anyone's ever really going to know. But again, I think it's always nice to have like a book and a dish, because if you're staying here, you could put earrings or whatever in there. And again, I also think at a bedside, it's always nice to have a little dish, just to finish the tabletop. And if you had, I don't know, hearing aids, I think I'm getting old, but like hearing aids or whatever, you know, a little place to put things. And again, this little table, I wouldn't have gone out of my way to say, oh, I'm going to plan to put this little, I mean, it's really a table that should go in a living room, but there's not a lot of space here with the window and everything. So this is small and it just works. And so we put it here. And there wasn't really enough room for bedside lamps. So we did wall mounted lamps, which I think in a smaller bedroom is always a good trick, because there just isn't room here for a big lampshade. So that's it for the bedroom. And I have one more room I'd love to share, which is the bathroom, which might be the best of all. So on the way to my bathroom, this is a hallway outside the bathroom at the top of our stairs, and I would say it's handy to just think through every little spot. We have this table here, which fills this wall. These mirrors, if you recall, were in that picture I showed earlier of my first apartment. They were with that round Prouvé table. And I bought these. These were another purchase I got for my first apartment, and I've had them in every place I've ever lived. I've hung them. It takes a while to hang them, so I don't like to have to do it too often. But I found them at in New York at a shop, and I'd been in my old apartment. I had this big blank wall, and I didn't know what to do with it. Like, I couldn't really afford or find like a huge painting or something. And then I saw these and I was like, this is great. Like, we can spread them out along the big wall. They add interest. And so I've kept them, and I love having them here, and they're handy. You can, on your way downstairs, make sure your lipstick's on right. And again, here I'm a big fan of books, and I do like looking through them. It's not just for show, and it feels very cozy to me to have books. These were a wedding present. I like the color. I love colored glass. So, a few things here and there that just finish a tabletop and kind of make you happy, like little moments. I love creating little moments. I think that's what a lot of decorating is this is a little moment here, and I like it. So anyway, let's go into the bathroom. So here we are in my bathroom. As you can tell, my idea or story of this space was I wanted to be able to take a bath and pretend I was in some wonderful tropical place. This is Clarence House wallpaper. And then I love the idea that the shower curtains look like big raindrops, like you're in a rainforest somewhere. So that was my thinking. And this is an old bathtub again. It came with the house. We did have to replace the shower head and all that. So part of the idea is this looks like raindrops in your forest and rainforest, and you can have a long bath and be transported, hopefully. And this is a little chair that someone gave us when my daughter was born, and it just kind of worked perfectly right here to keep things on for when you do take a bath. And I said I had a thing for little chairs, and they seem to find places and purposes all over the house. And one thing I'll say is this wood, for years, before I put the wallpaper up, it really bothered me. Like, I didn't like it. I felt like it should be painted. And then once I put this wallpaper up, I'm actually really glad it's not painted. And my point is that sometimes I think your feeling about something and whether you like it or don't like it can change depending on what it's paired with and what the combinations are. Because I do like this wood in combination with this wallpaper, and I'm glad I saved my money on painting this wood to do the wallpaper. So, you know, sometimes things you think you don't like, you might like if they were paired with something else, is my point. And the other thing is I had this like column, which I didn't really know what to do with. So we just brought it up here, and it's a great place for a plant. I try to keep a Boston fern here. They sometimes die, and anyway, the plants love the humidity and the light by the window. So it's a little unexpected, but we like it. And I guess that's it for the bathroom right now, but you can pretend you're on vacation for a minute. Actually, I'll say I got this idea because we were here during the COVID period where everyone was sort of stuck at home, and this was my idea hatched then, that I wanted to have at least one room in the house where I could feel like I'm somewhere else. Well, Homeworthy, it's been so great having you here, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.